システムコンタクト。ルートシーケンススタート。
敵オブジェクト接近を確認。
セルフチェック開始します。
このままじゃ戦場で死ぬか。
本番だ。おやまやするんじゃないよ坊やたち。
本国で死ぬか。
動力炉定格出力に到達。
探すしかないんじゃないか。
システムオールグリーン。
どうやっても倒せないはずのオブジェクトをどうにかできる弱点を。
It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone who follows my channel that I enjoy both a certain magical index and a certain scientific railgun. While I acknowledge the many faults that both series contain, something about this franchise in particular keeps me coming back for more.
Kamajo mother Toma.
I'm sure the same can be said for plenty of others, considering the light novel, manga, and animated series are highly successful. However, it wasn't until recently, and by recently I mean half a year ago, that I learned that a certain magical index's author, Kazuma Kamachi, created a mecha series with a soon-to-be anime done by JC Staff. Index's author, Mecha JC Staff. 3 statements that when put together sound like a fantastic idea to me. Now that the series has finished airing and my thoughts on the series being set in stone, did it live up to my expectations? What's up guys, it's Kent from Spartan Media Reviews, here to review the anime Heavy Object. Does this show deserve a watch? Let's find out. Heavy Object's story follows a future war in which giant robot spheres known as objects are the key to winning any battle. Quenther, Heavy Object's main protagonist, is a student studying abroad learning to become an object mechanic. While being nothing special at first, Quenther becomes the ace in the hole in turning the tides of war into their favor. However, as the series progresses, Quenther and the rest of the cast begin to uncover the horrible secrets surrounding the war and the objects that control it. Heavy Object's story is enjoyable, but it certainly isn't good in my eyes for the majority of its span. To get to the good points of Heavy Object's story, you have to trudge through the garbage that is the first quarter of the series. Episode 1 of the series is the perfect example in how not to start off on the right track. What with the large amounts of info dumping, pointless fan service, and making our main character, who I like by the way, look like a dumb because he doesn't want to touch a girl's breasts even though she could suffocate to death. Real logic there, Sherlock. After wading through the garbage, however, Heavy Object drastically improves. My initial hate for the series turned to happiness as it finally started to improve itself in writing and overall structure. While nothing over the top and being more comedy driven thanks to the overall stupidity of the concept itself, Heavy Object is still a really fun time. If you were expecting writing similar to that of the Magical Index or Scientific Railgun franchise, this will disappoint you. However, if you want a story that will keep you entertained with its witty humor and overall badassery, then Heavy Object's story is right up your alley. While lacking on a lot of fronts, I thoroughly enjoyed Heavy Object's cast. While character progression was pretty much non-existent, moving only from point A to point B as a new threat arises, the interactions and dialogue between our characters was both enjoyable and memorable. Heavy Object's 2 main characters, Quenther and Havia, are one of the most memorable duos from this particular season. The chemistry between the two is definitely there, leading into some well thought out moments. Supporting characters overall were fine for what they were, but don't expect anything detailed out of the cast. Overall, Heavy Object features a memorable cast, but not for the reasons you would come to expect before watching the series. Considering the year is 2016, I've seen far better productions out of JC Staff. Heavy Object suffered greatly in the animation department. Aside from the obvious CG, which wasn't that good, the general animation was also highly unappealing for JC Staff as a studio. Details were not present during plenty of moments, and for an action series, I expected a lot more. Both of Heavy Object's openings were exciting, being the highlight of the animation, while the endings were simple pans of well-drawn artwork of the series. As a whole, the animation was meh at best, and something I expected more out of, considering JC Staff animated the show. Heavy Object's soundtrack was fun and upbeat, having a more electronic and dubstep score compared to the average soundtrack. During the heavy action intense moments, the score both worked and sometimes got in the way. While I am usually the biggest fan of anything dubstep, especially in any anime series, when a song becomes the prominent point of the scene, that's when the score becomes a little too distracting. I loved every single opening and ending of the series. The openings were exciting and hyped me up for each episode, while the endings are extremely calming. The voice acting in Heavy Object was also phenomenal in my eyes. While I am unable to understand the Japanese language, Heavy Object's casting was spot on for the characters' personalities. Quenther and Havia's dialogue between themselves and the other cast was extremely witty and fun, and the casting helps bring that to life. fight. Now, with everything that I have said, do I recommend watching Heavy Object? Yes and no. Heavy Object had such a terrible start, and to get to the good parts of the series, it took far too long. Once the series hit a high point, it drastically improved, but that doesn't excuse its lackluster beginning set of episodes. Besides that, the main cast was great, while the supporting characters significantly suffered. The animation was below average for what we should be expecting by now, and the soundtrack was nothing special. I would recommend Heavy Object to fans of Kazuma Komachi's other famous franchise, A Certain Magical Index and Certain Scientific Railgun, or for anyone who wants a fun, turn your brain off popcorn flick. Otherwise, Heavy Object is an entirely average show. Did I enjoy it? Absolutely. However, I have to distinguish the difference between enjoyable and good. Spartan Media Reviews gives Heavy Object a final score of 6 out of 10 and an average recommendation. If you are interested in watching Heavy Object, you can check out the series over on Funimation's website. Now, what are your thoughts on Heavy Object? Comment below. If you enjoyed this review, hit that like button, I would really appreciate it. You can also subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, I would really appreciate that as well. Follow me on Twitter and Hummingbird to keep up to date with the current things that I am doing, and with all that said, I will catch you guys in my next review. Thank you for watching.